Hi there, it's Sharon Hess, and today I'm with my friend and colleague, Laurette DeJulian. I call her Lori, and she is a very dear friend to me. And Lori is a spiritual writer, and her and I both are students of A Course in Miracles. So we have some really wonderful conversations, and I asked her to hop on and let's just talk a few minutes about coping with and embracing the change that's going on and maybe put a little spiritual spin on it, right? So Lori, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Awesome. And I see your little fur baby running around in the back. I love when everything is so natural in our world now because everybody's having to do Zoom and that type of thing, like even the TV shows, right? So we get to see how they live, we get to know that they're really actually normal people just like us, right? So let me start by asking, what have you seen? I know we're all in fear because we feel like our whole world is, blown to smithereens, but have you seen a common thread running throughout the people that you work with, deal with, or yourself at all? Is there a common thread of what is the biggest thing that you think people are dealing with right now?
I think unpredictability, not knowing,
word.
not knowing, not knowing if they're going to get sick, not knowing if they have a job, not knowing what their business is going to do, on how long are we going to have to do this, and how long is this going to, what's tomorrow going to be like? And I think it's the unpredictability. It's without having a bottom.
Right.
We can't touch the bottom with our feet. So we're treading water, so to speak.
Right. And the biggest thing I see is that, so things happen in our life. We have shocking things that happen to us individually. We have major changes that take place. But right now it's the whole freaking world. Right?
I kind of like that though. What I find, just like myself, you have friends around the world and I have friends around the world, and we have this commonality, and I kind of like that. I mean, in a sick way, there's a lot of things about the situation that I do find myself liking.
Right. There's a lot of good that will come out of this, obviously. The friend that I talked to before I'm speaking with you, I had said, it's like God pressed the pause button and then handed us around to it, because we can do all those things we were going to do when we got around to it, right? And it's not just local. I've been through Hurricane Katrina. You've been through hurricanes, right?
Oh yeah.
So we know the aftermath of that. We know that somebody shook up your snow globe kind of feeling, right? But this isn't local. This is the whole world. I remember post-Katrina, a friend and I took a flight to Dallas so we could feel normal, right? We could go shopping. Everything was normal. This is the whole world. Nothing is normal.
Well, and so we have to really question how normal was our normal.
Right.
Because if we really stop and think about it, our normal for some of us was really out of whack.
Right.
Their constant busyness, constant running around. One of the things that I heard the most in my practice was there's never enough time. There's no time. I don't have time for my kids. I don't have time for my spouse or my partner. I don't have time to do the things that I want to do because I'm so busy. And, there's this slowing down that's happening.
Right.
And then this instant gratification that we all are so used to, I want to go to the store today and I want to go buy toilet paper. But guess what?
There isn't any.
I'm not going to the store and I'm not buying toilet paper. So I might have to wait a couple of weeks for those things. So we want an instant answer. We're used to having in America for an instant fix. Can't somebody fix this? Who's responsible for this? Who is responsible? I want to talk to the boss. I want to talk to your boss. And so we're so used to this mentality and not having any of those abilities to escape into. We're forced to look at what does this mean for me? And if I don't know when this is going to end, what shall I do in the meantime?
Right. So we're having to look within ourselves. Now, you and I have a spiritual practice, so it's not as frightening to have to sit and be with ourselves and look within. But for people who, like you said, we're so busy, I think a lot of I discovered, okay, as I settled and calmed down in my life and found peace, and I realized I didn't have to feel, every minute I was awake doing something, right? I found that I realized I was doing a lot of stuff to avoid knowing myself.
Right. And you can't get, I have to pick my dog up here.
That's fine. We love seeing him anyway.
We don't want to do our inner work. We really don't. We want to either blame somebody on the external, or we want somebody externally to fix us, but we really certainly don't want to sit down and think about the deepest, darkest things that are fearful to us. And one of our most primary fears is the fear of death. Right. And death is, certainly there's the death in the physical, but there's a death in any type of change.
Right. Right, exactly. And that's why I think so many people are kind of like in grieve mode right now, because they're grieving what it was, even if it was, excuse my language, fucked up, they still wanted it because it was familiar and it was normal to them. But inner peace is really hard work, but only because we created all of these things to block it.
Well, I think like anything, when you go to run a marathon, you have a training program. So you ease into it. You start, jogging around your block, walking and jogging.
You don't just run out the front door and run 5 miles? I'm just kidding.
Right. And so when race day comes, you're ready. And
prepare, right?
And so many people are not ready. They spend so much time being overwhelmed and being addicted to busyness that life doesn't stop. People get sick. And what's really interesting is we are collectively facing this death together, and it magnifies it. But there's people, let's say we went back to normal, whatever normal is tomorrow. There's people that have to face this in their daily life. People that have a diagnosis of cancer, people that are going to die of a disease, they can't escape it, right?
Right.
So we're doing this death collectively, but even if we do escape this, and let's say you watch Tiger King, nonstop, and bake brownies the whole time, and drink martinis on your doorstep, and chase the dog in the backyard, or however you're going to get through this, at some point you will not.
You cut out for a second there. At some point you what?
You will not escape this lesson. And this lesson is, who am I, and what is important, and what do I get to take, and what do I really didn't mean anything. And that's kind of what we're going through. We're going through a recalibration right now and determining.
And I think it was needed. I think it's good. I think a lot of wonderful things will come out of it. I think a lot of people will struggle through it because maybe they coveted something that won't, come back. But what's really important is what is inside of you, because it's never about the outside world. It's always what you see in the outside world is because of what you have on your inside world, right?
Yeah. And I do want to say there are varying degrees that we are experiencing this in the United States. I mean, New York definitely is ground zero for this. It's an epicenter. So those people are really, really faced with an oppressing kind of situation, as opposed to maybe the Midwest or a small town in Iowa right now that, doesn't feel this. So even though we're collectively talking about it, there are still people. There's
different
still
levels
levels.
that we're experiencing it, right?
And then there's people that will have it actually in their own life. God forbid you have a spouse or a child or somebody in your life, a partner that has it and you're living with it, or you know somebody that's in the hospital with it. So even though we're being called to collectively look at this, we are still having our own unique experience, which is everything, you know?
Right.
Everything we have is a unique experience.
So what would you recommend for someone who's just struggling with, how am I supposed to even look at this?
Well, you know, one thing that I really encourage my students is not to think about things, you know, mental concepts. How do I think my way out of this? How do I wrap my mind around this?
Right.
I really discourage them from going to that because your mind is not going to help you solve it. I would say my first thing is, what am I really feeling? That would be
And
my
allow yourself to feel it.
yeah. And most people don't want to do that. Most people do not want to feel what they're feeling, and they certainly do not want to go underneath the feeling and see what's underneath there. And if you were just to do that, you would have a massive spiritual awakening. If you
Right.
were just to sit with the feeling and lift up the feeling to see what's underneath there, that would start a domino effect in your life that, you know, somebody asked me today, do you think collectively, once this is over, we'll be changed forever? And I see it a lot like I have people that come to me that have cancer.
Right.
And, you know, when you're brought to death's door with cancer, you know, you change a lot. Sometimes you change a lot of things in your life. You start living healthier and you start having deeper relationships, and things that were so important become less important, and you do change your life. And if you do recover, I see people recover, and then as time goes on, maybe 4 or 5 years in remission, they start doing a lot of the same stuff that they used to do.
Right.
And so change is really up to the individual.
Right.
Do I think it's going to change us? Well, it might change the way we travel and the way we look at health issues. But in terms of personal habits, I think long term, it really just depends on the individual.
Right. But it is an opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity to, I think a lot of people have more time now to look at things.
Well, you know, that's interesting too, because there's a lot of people working from home, and their kids are home, and they're cooking, and they're working from home. So what I'm hearing a lot is, I have less time now than I had before.
Even without the commuting?
Yep. I don't have a space to myself. My kids are all home. I've got to cook 3 meals a day now. I've got to do cleanup because they're making such a mess and everybody's always talking. So I don't have time to have a spiritual awakening.
But you know, I don't know about you, but I didn't schedule mine. So
Because what I originally said to my clients, I see a lot of professional people, and you know, they've always said, well, I wish I had the time to go on a retreat, or I wish I had the time to take time to be with my partner or do some spiritual study. And the first thing I said to them all was, here's your hall pass. You've been waiting for this. And now I'm finding, you know, they're either getting caught up in CNN and all the drama of that, or their anxiety has just escalated and they're using deeper coping skills, unhealthy coping skills that they've always had. So.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, well, we're all unique individuals. I have a dear friend named Lori who said one time, we're all Rubik's cubes.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff there. So.
One thing I would say, if you are struggling, the best thing that you could do is start a routine.
Right, because then you feel like you're in control of something.
So start structuring your day with a routine. You know, if you get up in the morning, maybe you go for a walk for 20 minutes, and every day you get that's your walk time. And then at 11 o'clock, you know, you do, for instance, I have to give my dog some medicine. So 11 o'clock, I give him some medicine. At 2 o'clock, I give him some medicine. 4 o'clock, we take our walk. 5 o'clock, I prepare my dinner. You know, those kind of things.
A bit of a schedule, yeah.
Yeah, and that schedule has created some certainty in my life.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In a time of uncertainty, and it just brings a lot more calm into my life.
Awesome. Awesome. So what else would you like to share with whoever's watching this?
If you're a person that's struggling, I think the biggest thing is to reach out and to be connected to other people. And perhaps it's not the people in your home, but more than ever now, there are so many avenues to connect with people, especially through classes and counseling online. You know, you go on Facebook and every day there's this, that, and the other thing to work through this, so you don't feel that you're alone.
Right. And also, I will say on that end also, if you know someone who's alone and doesn't have a support system, reach out, connect with them.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Part of my routine is there's somebody in my neighborhood that's elderly and she can't get out. And so I've made her part of my routine. Every 2 weeks I go over there and leave something for her, and I give her a call and check in. And that has brought it has brought some service value to me, and also loving somebody, and them being appreciative. That also has a great feeling associated with it too.
Awesome. You know, I think it's human nature that we do all have deep within us the desire and the need to give to others.
And lastly, and I'm sure if any of my students watch this, they'll say, well, she just had to say that. She just had to she just had to say that. Is if you don't have a spiritual practice, I encourage you to get one.
I absolutely agree with that. And I was going to say before we went, you know, it's interesting, a lot of times people will only turn to God when they have no alternative.
But here's the deal with that. So I kind of say it's a lot like having Christmas lights. So you get a spiritual practice and it's really great, and you have this wonderful experience and you feel so happy and peaceful. And it's kind of like being a child, first seeing your first set of Christmas lights that you can intellectualize. And then Christmas is over and life goes on, and you put your Christmas lights up in the attic where you can't find them anymore. And guess what? You can't find them when you need them.
Or they're all tangled.
Right. You got to untangle them. And so, you know, so then you're in a crisis. Right. And what people say to me is I've gone backwards, or I've lost touch with my spiritual practice. I'm saying, no, you still have the same spirituality. You've just stored it away. And so it's going to be a little bit more work to, you know, dust it off and take it out. So my suggestion is to keep your Christmas lights up all year round.
Oh, I love it. So when y'all make fun of those people that have their Christmas lights up all year round, just use that. Just say, "Oh, that makes sense. Now we know what Lori was talking about. They see the joy in it. You know, 365 days a year."
Right.
Well, thank you so much, Lori. Again, everyone, I'm going to leave her website, but it's laurettedejulian.com. And thank you, Lori.
Oh, well, thank you.